My name is John Antos, and it's my good friend Jim Brimson, and we'd like to welcome you to our series on business process management. In the previous videos, we have talked about the importance of processes and how critical they are to managing in the 21st century. We talked a little bit about a process definition, and now we want to talk about some of the assumptions concerning processes. So if we think about an organization, all organizations provide their customers with products and or services, and the way they do that is through our processes. Well, Jim, how is that an assumption?
Well, there is either processes or there are not processes. It's sort of black and white. And processes are repeatable events that reoccur over time. And everything in a business is a process. And that's very, very important because the opposite of a process is chaos. Something is not repeatable. There would be no need for management understanding of what happened because it's already occurred and there's nothing at all that can be done about that. And there would be no need for planning because, again, everything was random. So processes are critical to management theory.
Now, Jim, you and I have both been in a number of organizations that are in chaos, and even they would admit they're in chaos. How did they get that way, and what are they doing wrong, and how do they get out of this chaos? Because it's no fun for anyone.
Well, again, there's multiple factors for that. The first factor is, are you really providing a value to your customers? If you're not providing value to the customers, then whatever you do is going to be, present problems to your organization. So the first step is, are you really providing a value-added service? The second part is your processes. So if I have decided to offer a service or product that is considered a value to society, then I've got to have processes in place to deliver that product and service, and those processes have to create the value for the organization and for the customer. Otherwise, we're going to end up in chaos.
Now, Jim, help me understand. We talk about understanding processes, and if we understand processes, we're going to understand the organization. But if I have a car dealer, that car dealer sells cars. What else do I need to know?
Yes. But if we look at every single car dealer, there tends to be a fairly universal way that car dealers provide their processes. Where competitive advantage comes in is when you get a new form of car dealerships that are very different from other processes. And those provide a competitive advantage in many cases for the customers because they might value something that the current car dealer process is not providing.
So processes can be a competitive advantage for organizations, and one of the things an organization can do is look at their competition and see what processes they have and are they different from their own processes, and then they may be able to adapt some of those other processes in order to also have a competitive advantage.
That is clearly important. It also brings up the point, though, that in many organizations, organizations lose sight of their value-added proposition. And their processes become what they sustain, rather than continually adapting them to the new environment. I've seen so many organizations that were excellent. In fact, if you go back many years ago to the book In Search of Excellence, you'll find that very few of those organizations even exist today. Most of them have been absorbed by another organization or have gone out of business. So the key is that you can never say the processes I have are perfect. They're continually need to be adapted, need to be improved. You have to constantly be looking at what's happening in the world and adapting your processes. So if too many key people and organizations take their eye off the value creation and let the processes dominate rather than their need to satisfy social value.
Okay. Well, the other thing we talked about is that we have these natural forces that occur, whether it's weather forces, the amount of rain we might have, which can affect crops. We also have environmental issues that we're concerned about the amount of heat in the environment and how that's negatively impacting our environment. And what we find is that those also affect processes and how we even perform those processes.
They're very critical aspects. The world is constantly in a state of flux. But there are also some other natural forces that are also of critical importance to an organization. Take, for example, activity-based costing. What we found is rarely did organizations adopt activity-based costing and put it in as their cost accounting system of the normal cost accounting system. Most of them tended to use ABC as a one-off exercise or a period exercise where they improve their organization. Most of them will say that they did get value out of it, but it never became the system of the main cost accounting system. So if you begin to look at what are the forces behind that, what you'll find is that in most cases, ABC was championed. There was a champion behind it. And the natural instinct of people is they did not like the time recording, they didn't like the level of detail that they had to have the record keeping at, and many other factors. And so when that force of the champion was removed and that person was promoted or left, then the other force of people not liking to have to do all the work to maintain an activity-based system pushed it out so that the activity system was abandoned. So forces are not just the natural forces that exist in every organization, that it's critical that we begin to understand if we are to make progress.
Now, Jim, one of the last assumptions that we feel is important is that if you have a measurement system, it has to be based on processes. And if it's not based on processes, we can even get false signals, or we can fail to measure some really key or important factors in our organization, which causes great surprises for us. Why are processes so important to avoid those false signals, and why are they so important to ensure that we are measuring those key factors that affect performance?
If we go back to the first assumption, and that is that all work is a process, then by definition, any organization is a summation of their processes. And yet, our management systems tend to record results, and they look back in history rather than looking directly at the process. So what evolves is what I call an information fog. We get information. From a certain perspective, the information is absolutely correct and true. However, the perspective is not robust enough for us to really understand and manage the key factors. So if we wait till a crisis arises, then we go and take some sort of action to try to avoid it, which is so different from a process management system that says, let's look at our processes today and let us manage those processes effectively, and that will get us closer to creating and sustaining value than our current haphazard system that, again, is looking the totally wrong way and is not giving us the type of information of what are the real problems, what are the causes of the problems. It just states what the problem is.